What is the deal, everybody? I know it's a little surprise. It's your boy Kenny once again with the Call Up Podcast, bringing you news and rumors. I was sleeping, and you get those notifications on your phone letting you know that there is some news happening in the world of wrestling. Looks like Cody Rhodes, Brandy Rhodes are no longer with AEW. Now, this has been an ongoing situation. For months now, we know that Cody Rhodes' contract ended in December, and a lot of the speculations were that he was going to re-sign with the company at some point. But for a good while, it didn't look that way, and people were thinking there was more like a storyline going in because he was doing all these different promos. And now we wake up today. Well, I woke up today, and I see that Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes are no longer with AEW. Now, for so many, I waited a little while because obviously I have parent life, so I have to do a whole bunch of stuff. But I wanted to get some more information on this situation, and it looks like this is actually true. I've seen many reports online stating like, is this a work? Is this real? This is 100% real. Tony Khan has made it obvious that this is real. Cody has made it obvious that this is real. There are talks in the locker room from different talent stating, going to dirt sheets and letting them know that like this is real and that this is actually going to happen. Tyson is in the chat right now, so if you guys are watching the live version of this, I gladly appreciate you stopping in. And if you're listening to the tape version of this later on, thank you for listening and thank you for supporting. But yeah, like I was saying, so back to the conversation at hand when it comes to Cody Rhodes is like there were so many talks as to what Cody wanted to do in the beginning of this situation as far as like what his game plan was sticking around with AEW, and rumors were that he wanted to have more money. Even though he has an EVP role with the company, he wanted to have a bigger role with AEW. So it's kind of, so curious as to what those demands were and why didn't Tony Khan actually did not want to sign on a dotted line with him and keep someone like Cody Rhodes. So now I'm sitting here speculating on so many things where people are saying is like, so what happens with Cody Rhodes now that he's no longer with AEW? So far this whole entire afternoon, I've been seeing we're going to get the return of Stardust. Cody Rhodes is going to end up going back to WWE. My personal opinion is that I do feel that maybe Cody Rhodes could go back to WWE. Will we see the Stardust character, make a return? I don't think so. I think Cody has established himself well enough in the wrestling business that he can make that decision and say to himself, like, I don't want to portray this character anymore. This is something that he didn't want to do in the beginning, where he said, like, this was one of the main reasons why in WWE he had left in the first place. So why would you want to go back and portray that same character once again? I'm just sitting here reading a couple of things in the chat here. You got Chris over here says all the new signing superstars to AEW, but they didn't have much money to keep Cody Rhodes. And then, that's kind of true because, and I said it yesterday where I said, there's so many different signings going on now in AEW that is like, what happens to those old AEW diehards? And this is the prime example for a lot of people who are fans of AEW right now. It's like, you lose Marco Stunt, you don't want to re-sign him, but you re-sign a 17-year-old kid. You lost Cody Rhodes, who was one of the, your diehard AEW talent that was batting for every single person in that locker room and batting for the company as much as possible. We've seen all the shots that Cody was taking at WWE and on Triple H. So now to lose a big figure like this in AEW, I'm kind of wondering what is Tony Khan's end game when it comes to these things, and it's like, where do we go from here? WWE right now is in talks with Cody Rhodes. There were reports from Fightful stating that they were that they already knew that Cody was going to leave AEW. This is something that is definitely something that before we even know, a lot of talent already know as well. Yesterday I was talking to Amber Moon, And she said it too. She said when it came to AEW, a lot of talent knew about what was going on in AEW before it was even reported. So I can only imagine that a lot of people already knew that Cody was going to leave AEW way before it was reported to, say, Fightful or PW Insider or to Dave Meltzer and all the other dirt sheets and wrestling news websites, so I can only imagine what's going to happen next. Still getting some stuff here in the chat. So you got Luke in the chat right now. He says, we better not see Stardust. That's going backwards. And that's exactly what I said. I was like, why would you establish yourself in such a way where now you're going to go backwards and they're going to make you do the Stardust character? And that's why I said, I don't really think that, if he does decide to go to WWE, I think it will benefit Cody Rhodes in a big way for the simple fact that, it could show like the bridge between the two. And he's been killing it since he's left AEW. So I can only imagine as to why he will want to go back to that Stardust character. You got Big Hirsch saying that he's going to open up a cookie shop. I could only imagine that for the simple fact that I know maybe a lot of people will probably think all the different rumors that are going to go around here. Pro Wrestling Podcast says, imagine the alternative. This could be the most abrupt work in wrestling history. It could be, because I'm kind of wondering, like, what's the end game here as far as, like, can Tony Khan be that smart to swerve everybody and say to themselves, like, hey, we got one over on them? But at the same time, WWE is so desperate for ratings at this point that they could sign Cody Rhodes. There were reports now that you can even look on there where they say that a lot of the ticket prices for WrestleMania right now are like in the tank. There's a lot of seats for WrestleMania still available. Look at the next story that we'll talk about when it comes to Stone Cold Steve Austin, where they have to try and build something. Dumb Marks Podcast said the same thing. It says, like, I got to give WWE, Shane, Stone Cold, and AEW Cody credit for making us second guess everything these days as shoots or works. It's true. We're in a season right now. We're actually in WrestleMania season where you don't know what's going on. To see somebody here too, because I'm also live on Instagram right now, so you might hear a little bit of different chatter going on. It might sound a little bit delayed. Hopefully we can try and get them on here, but let's I want to see what happens next. Big Hirsch is in the house. What's going on, Hirsch?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. Sitting here talking news and rumors, talking about Cody Rhodes. What did you think of the Cody Rhodes news moving forward with AEW?
Don't nobody really care about Cody anyway. I was tired of seeing Cody as the TNT champion every other week, and then you can't defend the championship, so you do the HBK versus Razor Ramon angle for the undisputed TNT champion. Thought it was a horrible look for the company, especially since you got Guevara, who's actually killing it. You have solid talent. No one wants to see Cody go back and forth 4 times a month. Then he disappears to do his little TNT show. So that's just my take on it.
And that's another thing you bring. You brought up that the go home, that big go home show, is that now that he's not a part of AEW, I'm kind of wondering whether or not is he still going to be a part of that show, being that AEW was so invested in this in this project that Cody was currently doing.
I don't know. It's Cody Rhodes. I mean, he could do anything. Right now, you got to think about it. And you touched on it. If you have all this money to sign all of these people who are just sitting on the shelf that you're not using, you can pay Cody Rhodes what he wants to be paid.
Exactly.
Especially from, the business point of it. Like, he grew up in the business. There's not a lot of people at AEW that grew up in the business. Yeah, you have people who were talent turned execs, but, Cody was a different breed. You know what I'm saying? He had a different way of helping the company. And a lot of those other old talents that they got there can't do the same. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, and you know what? You're absolutely right, because like now with Cody leaving, AEW, I kind of wonder what happens to Dustin at this point. With his brother. We all know. I mean, he still plays a big part in AEW. He is one of the trainers in AEW. The Nightmare Factory, which is still run by Cody Rhodes and Dustin, still plays a big part in AEW. So I'm kind of wondering what happens to the school, what happens to the students who make their appearances on AEW Dark and Elevation. What happens to QT Marshall, because he's one of the head trainers too, not only for AEW but also for the Nightmare Factory as well. Does Tony continue to have this working relationship with the Nightmare Factory, or do we kind of see like the same way Creator Pro and WWE went, where now a lot of Creator Pro wrestlers are going more towards AEW because Brian Myers is no longer with the company?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is just my opinion. You know how I can get. Dustin Rhodes has more 5-star matches in the last 6 months than Matt Cardona. And I want you to think about that. And you're probably like, what does that have to do with anything? But just wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, I hope and wish Cody nothing but the best.
Definitely.
I think he's going to land on his feet no matter which way he does. Yeah. Whether it's a work or a shoot, he's always going to land on his feet. And Nightmare Factory, QT Marshall, to me, he's a bum. When I did watch AEW, he was a bum. So Nightmare Factory, I mean, how many factions did you have in AEW? You had at least 60. Mm-hmm. So I think they should just give it up and start telling a little bit more stories. What's his name? Captain Hook?
Oh, yeah. You got Hook's son. You have Taz's son, Hook.
Hook versus Guevara, and not for the TNT title. I'm talking about for the AEW Championship. That's where the money is. That would be an excellent match. That's just my opinion.
And I feel you on that one.
Like a light heavyweight match. That'd be pretty dope.
No, I feel you on that one, because they do have to start relying on their younger talent, moving forward. I mean, you're signing so many different people now from WWE that it's literally like, I seen a meme where people said that like AEW is starting to look like NXT, because they literally have signed almost everybody from the old Black and Gold brand.
Yeah. What's his name on TV last week?
Who?
Malachi Black?
Yes.
Okay. Was Scorpio Sky on TV last week?
No.
Okay. I just really found out Miro was hurt.
Yep. He's been hurt. But he's clear to compete, but creative so far doesn't have anything for him.
Okay. Was Penta on TV last week?
Yes.
Okay. Private Party was on TV. I know that for sure.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Well, one half of Private Party was on TV last week. He jobbed out to Keith Lee.
Oh gosh. During Black History Month, really?
Yeah, of course, you already know. I mean, we're about to get into. We'll touch away from Cody's, from Cody news. But I said it last night on the Monday Night Raw stream, where I said if Brock Lesnar wins the Elimination Chamber on Saturday, he will be the only man in WWE who has taken the title off of every single African-American champ that WWE has placed in front of us. He's beaten The Rock for the undisputed title. He's beaten Kofi Kingston for the heavyweight title. He's beaten Big E for the heavyweight title. And if he's successful on Saturday, he will have beaten Bobby Lashley for the heavyweight title.
He doesn't technically have to pin Bobby,
but he's still taking the title. He's still taking the title away from him.
He doesn't have to pin him, but I get what you're saying.
And knowing WWE, if Brock goes on last, he will win the title.
I don't think he'll.
It's all about placement. I think it's all about placement when it comes to this. If Brock Lesnar, if the Elimination Chamber match is the last match on the card for this Saturday, I strongly feel that Brock Lesnar will win.
I hope and I pray it's not, because I have all faith in the Tribal Chief. That's one.
Right.
That he'll close the show.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, my pick for that particular match, the Elimination Chamber match, my pick is AJ Styles.
Yeah, and that's been a name that's been tossed around a lot, of AJ winning the Elimination Chamber match. That's why I said, like, if we get this match first, then I can say that, you know, I can see AJ winning it. If we get this match last, it's gonna go to Brock. We're gonna get the title versus title match.
I can see that.
We're gonna get that title versus title match at Mania. They're gonna unify those titles, and Roman Reigns is gonna end up being, 2-belt Reigns or whatever else, the Tribal Chief, whatever nickname that they're coming up with right now. In the works, I guarantee you that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Roman's gonna win.
Yeah, I see DeMario in the chat. What's up, DeMario?
What's up? No, he's not gonna win, DeMario. I'm sorry. Brock is not gonna win. Doesn't matter if he comes out with Garth Brooks or Lenny Kravitz. He's not gonna win. Sorry.
Oh man.
Sorry.
But
thank you for having me. I deeply appreciate you reaching out to your fans, and I am a fan of the Call Up. I think it's a great show.
Thank you.
You're doing great. Keep killing them.
I will.
I just want to remind you that if you had me as your co-host, your fans would go from 5 to 95, because I had like 5 or 6 of my friends popped in just to support me.
Well, we got to make it happen.
You'll see the traction in a little bit.
We got to make it happen then.
You're very welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
And remember, Matt Cardona, no matter where he's at, is me.
No, you're absolutely right.
That's the last thing I want to say. It's not that I hate him, but you can't call yourself, like, you got all these titles, and then it's like, you ain't beat nobody.
Well, let's see what happens.
You ain't beat nobody, except Jordan Grace. I mean, that's about it. But, you know.
All right, man.
I hope he sees this, because I know he watches your show.
All right.
All right, bro. You have a good one.
You too. Oh, man. Let's get into a little bit more news here. We just had Big Hirsch coming in. He's a good guy. Check out his stuff. He's a great promo guy in the Mania Club world. But let's go into some more news. It looks like WWE is still being more desperate to try and fill in more seats for WrestleMania, where there was news coming out last night that they're talking to Stone Cold Steve Austin to bring him back. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a big Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. I've been a fan since I was a kid, and I would love to see Stone Cold Steve Austin in a ring again. But do I want to see him in a one-off match here at WrestleMania this year? I really don't think so. I really would just rather have that nostalgia factor of Stone Cold and maybe see him come in and host WrestleMania, especially that it's being in Dallas. But the rumors going in is that it looks like Stone Cold, they're trying to get him to come back for one last match. It was even more evidence of just the way Kevin Owens was going so hard with, on his rant with Texas and Dallas and the people in Texas. And we all know that, where Stone Cold is from, where we can actually sit there and get this match. And, and if not for nothing, I was also looking at reports and just listening to other people, rant about it. And somebody did make a really good point, is where, like, you don't necessarily need to have Stone Cold sit there and have a long match where where he's going to take up maybe 15, 20 minutes of the show. It would be just great if you just maybe do have somebody like Kevin Owens in there who will protect Stone Cold in a good way. And then you have a really good build to it where you use, like, stunner versus stunner, who's going to come out on top. You make this really big build for it. You have Stone Cold come out in his trunks. The music hits, the glass breaks. Kevin Owens is in the middle of the ring. We all know anytime we see Kevin Owens and he's wrestling against anybody in the beginning of a match, whether it's Sami Zayn or it is AJ Styles, they go with the, straight in the middle, blow for blow. I say this is the way you book it. If you're going to have Austin at WrestleMania, you have them trash talk this whole entire the weeks leading into Mania. You don't see Austin on camera at all. You get the go home show for for Monday Night Raw. Austin comes out, cuts a killer promo. We don't see Kevin Owens. We've been seeing Kevin Owens for weeks, but we don't see Kevin Owens at the go home show. We finally get our WrestleMania match. Owens is in the ring waiting for Austin. Austin comes out, his music hits. They just look at each other in the middle of the ring and they just start going to blows. That's going to give the fans hype. They're going to get them ready. You give this maybe at least 5 to 10 minutes of Austin and Kevin Owens. You go in for the stunner. 1, 2, 3. Austin walks away victorious. You throw up the beer cans, have a beer party, and then you send Stone Cold off into the pasture once again and let him do his smoking skull sessions like he's been doing for the last year or so, which has been working for him and the WWE. This is how I would actually book this match. I wouldn't have anything longer because we've seen what happens to a lot of superstars that come in, a lot of legends that come in and they have way too much of a longer match. We've seen it with Goldberg. We've seen it with Taker. And that was another thing that kind of got to me too, is because, Taker is from Texas. And I was just praying to God that we don't see another Taker match at WrestleMania. I don't really think we need it. I think Taker is completely fine in sitting there and just being retired, but knowing Vince McMahon, he's probably trying to, like, egg Taker on and say, like, hey, can you at least do this one thing? Because guess what? Ticket sales are not doing as so great in Texas right now for WrestleMania, where now they're doing a 2-for-1 sale on Mania tickets. So I can only imagine what Vince McMahon and the guys in the back are trying to think of right now. But that is all that I have for right now. We're getting ready for Elimination Chamber this Saturday. It has a special start time of 12 p.m. Eastern time. If you're on the East Coast, if you're anywhere else, it's most likely, I believe, 11 a.m. And then on the West Coast, I'm not too sure as far as, like, what the time frame is from there. But guys, thank you for staying here. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you to Hirsch for coming on here and talking his opinions on here. Thank you to the Pro Wrestling Podcast, SDA, Dumb Marks Podcast, the Knuckleheads Network, anybody else who came on here, Alex, Sportsmouth, Chris. Let's see, I'm going through all the names here. Alex, once again, to the K Wrestling podcast as well. They jumped on here for a little while, showing some love. Sam's Wrestling Figs, they were on here too. The Mario from Mania Club. Guys, until next time, like I said, most likely I'll probably be on tomorrow. We have AEW Dynamite Watch Party. We have the Knuckleheads Network coming in on Thursday. I believe, I'm not too sure, but I'm calling them out today. We're going to have, in my opinion, with Dave over on the Pro Wrestling podcast. So go check them out. And guys, until next time, be safe and continue to mask up.